The Labour Party is calling for a police investigation into the allegations against Tory MP Mark Menzies. Let's speak now to the chair of the Labour Party, Annalise Dodds, about this issue. Hello, Annalise. Thank you so much for joining me this afternoon. We've already discussed Mark Menzies on the programme. It is a rather unfathomable, convoluted, very peculiar story, isn't it? Not least among the peculiarities, the fact that it seems that the Tory party were aware of this 3 months ago and did nothing much about it.
Good afternoon, Vanessa. It's good to be on the programme. And you're right, I think it's really concerning that the Conservative Party appears to have known about these troubling allegations since right back in January. So there are big questions, ultimately, for Rishi Sunak and the Conservative Party to answer here. Why didn't they act until now? Also, have any laws been broken around this? And has there been misuse of funds that were donated for campaigning purposes, not for very different purposes, as suggested by the allegations we've seen in the press today?
Why do you think it is? What do you think it is about life in Westminster that seems to evoke in some MPs, obviously not all and only a small percentage, but in some MPs a kind of bizarre series of lifestyle choices that you feel are almost designed to end up with them plastered all over the centre pages of the Daily Mail and, you know, in ignominious disgrace. There must be something in the water or something in the atmosphere that lends itself to that type of behaviour, surely.
Well, I have to say, Vanessa, if I'm thinking about this particular case and the individual involved, clearly there's vulnerability there. And, you know, I would say personally, I do hope that he, is in a better place soon. But clearly there's a challenge because actually, if a member of parliament is potentially breaking rules, potentially breaking laws around campaign donations, if also there are other vulnerable people who are involved here, then political parties need to be acting. You know, I accept that human beings are human beings, Vanessa. You know, sometimes people will make mistakes, but what really matters is how that's then dealt with by political parties that should be ensuring that their representatives are actually following the rules, that they are behaving in a way that frankly is appropriate for MPs. And I think that's the big question here. As I said, it's a big question for Rishi Sunak and for the leadership of the Conservative Party about how they've dealt with this.
And yet, as you know, and I know, and everybody watching and listening knows, we have this question mark currently hanging over the head of Angela Rayner, the deputy leader of your party, the Labour Party, who is being investigated by, it seems, according to the press at least, no fewer than 12 officers of a particular Northern Police force. And we have, of course, you know, the leader of your party saying that, I mean, nobody quite knows why, but he has neither read nor seen nor wants to read or nor is going to see the tax advice that Angela Rayner, his deputy, was given, which would pertain to some kind of conclusion about whether she has or hasn't done anything wrong. She says she hasn't. And I wonder about, you know, ostriches and heads in the sand and an unwillingness to read a piece of paper that would be revelatory if it were to be read. What's all that about? What's going on with all of this I haven't read it stuff?
Well, actually, I would suggest the opposite, Vanessa, because Angela Rayner has been really clear that she welcomes the opportunity to set the facts straight. Obviously, there is a police investigation, and Angela said she wants to actually make sure that she's providing all the information to the police, and she's more than happy to do that. And if I may, in relation to this case and any other comparison that people might attempt to make, actually, what's happened today with a Conservative MP is the second time in 2 weeks when a Conservative MP has had to sack themselves because their party didn't act. We're also in the middle of a by-election campaign because a Conservative MP suggested he would take cash for questions, and that's after all of the other ones. Goodness me, Owen Patterson, Nadine Zahawi, Suella Braverman, the list goes on and on. There's a pattern of behaviour in the Conservative Party at the moment, and it's one where Rishi Sunak doesn't seem to be able to take action on cases where there have been behaviour that's been unacceptable. He seems distracted by all of this internal party management. And instead, he should be focused on the needs of our country. You know, I think many people, frankly, watching us speaking just now, and of course, I know you cover these other issues in depth in your programme, Vanessa, but they would be saying, well, why aren't politicians focused on the cost of living, on public services, on what they want to do for them? And that's what Angela Rayner and Keir Starmer have been setting out our plans in those areas. And that's what we want politics to be focused on. But I'm afraid right now, Rishi Sunak just seems too distracted to be able to actually focus on the
I
country's
know that
needs
what you want
rather
to
than.
focus on today, Annalise, are ports and plans for northern ports. Now, there'll be many people who don't really care much about northern ports and aren't interested. However, this is a potentially enormously elevating proposal. Explain what you have in mind.
Absolutely. Well, those ports are absolutely key to our industrial future. You know, Labour's been clear that we want to get Britain building again, that we want to ensure we have strong growth rather than the really weak growth that we've seen over recent years with rising living standards. That means having ports that actually are as strong as they possibly can be. So we set out measures today about the National Sovereign Wealth Fund that we would be setting up, making sure that we can catalyse the investment that's needed in our ports, in other parts of our economy, so that we can actually start competing again on the world stage. You know, we're being left behind in the race for the jobs of the future at the moment. It's not because we don't have a great workforce, we don't have huge amounts of innovation in our country. We do, but we don't have a government that's backing all of that, that's got a long-term vision and plan. That's what Labour has.
Annalise, thank you very much indeed for joining us.